Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave. So we had this meeting on hold for the last 7 weeks, I think. I was in Japan and we had some very wonderful programs there. Rupanuga Prabhu was there, who's in our meeting now, and also Nanda Krishna Prabhu. Now I'm in Portugal. We'll be having some programs here over the next 10 days. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be here with all of you. I already have a question or questions from Rupanuga Prabhu. He's been waiting patiently. He actually asked this question in Japan we had a weekend retreat, and it's a bit of a complex question. And so I said, let's do it later when we have the Zoom meeting. And he remembered and he sent me a reminder yesterday. So there's no escaping it for me. Okay, let me open up this question. Krishna, actually, the way you wrote it out here was more clear and I could understand it better. So thank you for that, Prabhu. Rupanuga says, Krishna consciousness is eternal, but is Krishna's spirit internal within our own soul and therefore not external? That's number one. Number two, what is the connection between our sun, without which we would not be here, our earth, without which we would not be here, our body, without which we would not be here, our brain, without which we would not be here, our mind, without which we would not be here, our soul, without which we would not be here, our spirit, without which we would not be here, and the source Krishna, without Krishna, we would not be here. So my question really is, 3, does Krishna exist in our minds? Because all must be connected as described above. For example, when we chant the holy name, follow the holy scriptures, give obeisances, etc., is it 4, opening up a spirit consciousness within each mind and soul? That is, does Krishna consciousness exist within us, not outside of ourselves, not in a heaven up there somewhere, as in most other religions? Hare Krishna. So this is Rupanuga's very deep question. So I'm going to break it down into parts. I think that would be the easiest for all of us. First of all, it is absolutely correct that we don't want to conceive of Krishna consciousness or Krishna's abode, Vrindavan, as something that is existing somewhere out there. But yes, it's a plane of consciousness. Yes, it's existing within us. It is a plane which we can access through a particular heart frame, let's say. And our Gurudev actually, in one talk, it was in SoCal, California, he made it very clear once, and he said, he was saying how we should pray to, how was it exactly that he said? We should pray to Krishna or something like that. And then he said, and that is not existing in the sky or anywhere else, but that is existing within us. Right. And so it's a very tricky thing because, see, matter and spirit, they are 2 distinct energies, right? There's the divine spiritual energy and there's the material energy. And in one sense, we can think of them as oil and water, right? Never the twain will mix, right? You can't make them one. However, at the same time, that matter is also an expression. It is one expression of consciousness. And furthermore, if that divine energy so chooses, it can enter the plane of matter and will transform that plane of matter. So this is like similar to this is a type of tantra, actually. And that's why, like there are some lineages in India, they don't accept deities. They don't accept these types of, something like the Protestants, right? They don't accept idols, so-called idols, whereas Catholics embrace all of that. But see, in Tantra, and there are different types of Tantra, right? There's dark Tamasic Tantra, which can go really strange. But then there's also Sattvic Tantra, a higher type of Tantra. And there's the conception that the divine can enter the plane of matter, right? And so that's why, for example, in the case, normally the body is burned at the time of death. But in the case of a great soul, we consider that their body was divine. And so we place them in samadhi, right? We place them in the ground, we preserve their body, and we worship their body, right? Because we consider that's not ordinary material body, but it has a divine nature. Prashadam, right? Food, when we offer food, it's ordinary, ingredients, food, vegetables, fruit, grains, etc. But when we offer it to the Lord, when there's some, transaction of divine grace that takes place, then that food, what was ordinary ingredients, it becomes uplifted. It has become, in Srila Swami Maharaj's language, spiritualized, right? So the plane of spirit can choose to enter the plane of matter. It's a mysterious thing. And we hear, and this also applies with the holy name, right? The holy name that we're chanting. Actually, we cannot chant that name. Why? Because our tongue is mundane and the holy name is spiritual. So how can we approach that divine name with our mundane tongue? We can't. However, and then there's this famous verse that Rupa Goswami cites, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Rayam Indriyai Sevan Mukhe Hijiva Dao Swayam Eva Spurtya Dao. That through the service mentality, we can attract that divine name to descend and reveal itself within the plane of matter. So our tongue cannot by itself approach that name, but if the name is attracted by our mood of devotion and service, then the name can descend to us and dance upon our tongue and reveal itself to us within the plane of our own sense perception. It's a very it's a difficult point to understand. So this is a thing, right? And I mean, it's a very tricky point. And actually, this is a point that we hear Srila Sridhar Maharaj would debate with some of his god brothers, because from the highest conception, nothing is material, because everything ultimately is coming from Krishna. Everything is one of Krishna's energies. So it is a very tricky thing. And also everything depends on our consciousness. Like those on the highest plane of consciousness, they're seeing Vrindavan everywhere. Now, is that a lie? Is that just their imagination, or is that a particular plane of reality that they're connected with? Right? So it is a very tricky thing. It's a difficult thing to really understand. But I think the fundamental point is that it's a plane of consciousness, and we can access that plane of consciousness through our mood of dedication. The mood of exploitation takes us far away from that divine world. There's this very nice talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And this is something I appreciate so much about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Oh, wow, Chinmoy Prabhu's joined us. Wow, we're honored, Prabhu. Dandavad.
Dandavad, my camera's not working, so I'm
Oh,
invisible.
oh. Well, very happy to have you. Hope we can hear from you too.
I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad you came back.
There's this talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and this is something I appreciate so much about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. She has this way of making things that are, that can be very hazy and difficult and feel very remote and abstract, kind of make it feel like it's very accessible and relevant, right? And so in one place, he said, what is divine? What does divine actually mean? It's like a word we kind of like to throw around, like transcendental. We just throw these big words around. This is divine, that's divine. What does divine actually mean? What does it mean for something to be divine? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, divine means dedication. That is what is at the root, dedication. At the root of divine, at the root of something is divine is the spirit of giving, is the spirit of dedication. So the more one is entering into that spirit of giving, sacrifice, dedication, selflessness, love, the more they are approaching a divine way of being. So that's I think that kind of like in gist is my answer to Rupanuga's questions, that Krishna consciousness, that divine plane, no, it's not somewhere out in the hemisphere, go straight and turn left when you reach the Big Dipper. Last night I got introduced to the Big Dipper for the first time. Ananda Krishna showed me. I didn't do 4th grade. Apparently you learn it in 4th grade, So like, yeah, go past the Big Dipper a million light years and turn right, then you'll reach Goloka Vrindavan. Doesn't work like that. It's a plane of consciousness, and we can touch upon that consciousness, that plane, here and now. Marie says she learned that when she was 5. I was homeschooled up to around 11, so we never got to astronomy. So, and that's a plane which we can access here and now, right? Depending upon our consciousness. So let me see if there's, so that's kind of like going upon the essence. Yes, you could say when we chant the holy name, just looking back at his question here, when we chant the holy name, we follow the scriptures, we give our obeisances, is that opening up a spirit consciousness within each mind and soul. What's the real significance of all these things is that, yes, there's a potency and all of these things because they're connected with the plane of sat, the plane of truth. So when we have some faith in the revealed truth, when we have faith in the Sadguru and the pure, genuine, authentic Guru, then we are accessing that plane. And we will feel that reality, that higher reality will touch upon us. And what's the most significant point here is cultivating a spirit of surrender and submission. It goes back to that point every time, the spirit of dedication. So when we are, for example, chanting the holy name, not, because we want to record an album, and not because we want to impress our friends with how wonderfully we can sing the tune, right? Or how wonderfully we can play the drum or whatever it is, right? Or we're doing it for a business, right? But if we're really chanting in a spirit of faith and surrender that we want to offer ourselves for the cause of that holy name is a divine being, right? That holy name is Binatvan Namanamino, that holy name is non-different from Krishna himself. Right? And we are calling upon Krishna in his spirit of wanting to give ourselves, so when we chant with that mood of surrender, then that's when we really access the potency, and we are inviting that higher consciousness, that higher reality to enter our heart, to reveal itself within our heart. And then we have these other questions here, which are a part of it. What is the connection between our sun, without our earth, our body, our brain, our mind, our soul, our spirit, and the source Krishna? Well, actually, interestingly, the Gayatri mantra kind of covers all of this ground. If you look in, I think it's in the last chapter of Subjective Evolution of Consciousness, Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives his incredible explanation of the Gayatri mantra, the Om Bhur, the Brahma Gayatri, Om Bhur, Bhurva Swaha, Tat Savitor Varenyam. And there are so many explanations of this Gayatri mantra. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gives a phenomenal explanation, which I think we can say surpasses anything else that has been gifted to humankind in this age, in this era. And the explanation Srila Maharaj gives is that it's referencing different planes of existence. And so, there's the plane of matter, and this is also, in a more simple sense, something that is discussed in Bhagavad Gita in terms of the different elements, right? There are 8 mundane elements which are described, right? Earth. There's 5 more physical, gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So these are of the mundane, mayic, material energy. And, we use the word illusory in the sense that it is temporary. There are other conceptions, lines of thought, which say everything is an illusion, right? Shankaracharya's and the Mayavad conception, they say everything's an illusion in this world. And we use that word sometimes, but with a different idea. Not that that it doesn't exist, but that it has no permanence, right? That's our idea. So that's pertaining to a temporary plane. So the physical side of this mundane plane: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then there's the subtle side of this material plane: mind, manas. The mind is an element, right? The mind is a material element. And there's a spiritual mind, that's something else. But the mind of this world, that is something distinct, that is something separate, manas. And then there's buddhi, the plane of the intellect, that aspect of ourselves which engages in discrimination, analysis. And then there's ahankara, right? The plane of ego. And this is the most subtle of all the mundane elements. And it is that ahankara which causes us to identify with our current circumstances, our current body, and so on, our current identity as man, woman, or whatever it may be, right? African, American, Mexican, Chinese, and so on, right? It is the ahankara, the ego, false ego, which causes us to identify with all of these things. And of course, we don't completely disregard that. We have to accept our current circumstances and work with them, but we just also try to keep that wider view of what is our identity within eternity, right? We want to recognize our current identity as a temporary identity, right? So, right, so these are the 8 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and ego, ahankara. And these are all pertaining to the temporary plane. And then there is Atma, the soul, that is of an eternal nature, right? And then the sun, the earth, the sun and the earth, we will think of them as devas, right? We usually translate that as demigods in English, which I don't know how useful that really is, but the word deva is nice. They're gods. You could say with the lowercase g. Krishna's the uppercase G. And these devas, they are actually mortal beings. The earth is activated by Bhumi Devi, right? She's the goddess of the earth. Surya, the sun, Surya Dev, is activated by the god of the sun. And so they're actually mortal beings, and they have very, very long lifespans, lasting, I expect, millions and millions of years. But they also have a lifespan. Lord Brahma, the creator, he also has a lifespan. And they're empowered by Krishna. That is explained in Brahma Samhita. They are empowered by Krishna their duties are delegated by Krishna. And they're carrying those duties out and supporting the existence of all souls within this world in that way. Am I answering your question, Rupanuga? Okay, I'm reading Marie's comment here. Yeah, demigods I think is not exactly yeah, it's not the most helpful way. Yeah.
Your
Oh.
your your answer for me was perfect. In the meantime, I have asked other gurus, and they didn't complete the answer, and said I should just chant the holy name and be quiet. In a way, I was asking. I was being too logical, but I don't think I was, and you've answered so beautifully, and
Oh.
I satisfied with your answer. I really am. I have learned a lot, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Rupanuga Prabhu. And you should never feel that your questions are wrong. And so yeah, don't be cowed down by what others may say. I haven't given a really proper explanation. What I would recommend is that you read that chapter. Actually, have you read Subjective Evolution? You should read Subjective Evolution of Consciousness. I think that book would really suit your sensibilities.
Thank you.
And also Brahma Samhita. I would recommend those two books. And I think if you read those two books carefully, all your questions will be answered. And in in Subjective Evolution, Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives this incredible explanation of the Gayatri Mantra. The Gayatri Mantra, this Brahma Gayatri, like apparently it's like a prayer to the sun. The sun, in traditional Vedic worship has a very special place because without the sun, we're lost, right? The sun is illuminating and activating so many things. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in his explanation of the Gayatri Mantra, he explains how like a more profound understanding of this mantra is that Savitur, rather than referring to the sun, is actually referring to the Atma, to the soul. Because without the soul, we can't see anything. And so therefore, from Srila Sridhar Maharaj's angle, very deep angle, this Brahma Gayatri is kind of referencing different levels of existence, or different planes of existence. So there's the whole plane of this temporary cycling mundane world going up and down. And then beyond that is the plane of Atma, the plane of soul. But then there's also beyond Atma, there's Paramatma. There's super soul. So then within the plane, so you could also think of it in terms of going from grosser to finer elements. So our Atma is very subtle. Our soul is very subtle compared to the plane of matter, gross matter. But Paramatma, the supreme Atma, Krishna, that is even more fine, right? And then ultimately, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's explanation is concluding with Radha Dasyam, with glorification of Srimati Radharani as the most fine energy, divine energy of Krishna. So I'm giving a very, very simplistic overview, but yeah, I would highly recommend read the whole book, and particularly that chapter. I think you'll feel very, very satisfied with. Okay, well, I'm really happy that we could finally address your questions. And thanks for writing it out again. It was more clear in your last message. And I'll also share this. One of our Japanese friends, she also wanted to hear the answer to your question, Sarah. So I'll share the recording with her too. Oh no, yeah, it is recording. Yeah, we're recording. Okay. She specially asked. Okay. Well, we're really happy to have Chinmoy Prabhu with us. I don't know, Chinmoy Prabhu, if you feel inspired to share anything based on what we're discussing or anything else. Any other comments come to mind?
Well, just on the first bit, I just always think of Srila Sridhar Maharaj when he was challenged at one time by that one gentleman who said, if the finite can know the infinite, then he's not finite. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj responded, that is true, but if the infinite cannot reveal itself to the finite, then it is not infinite. So that there's another way to look at like how the Maya Shakti and the Chit Shakti interact. If the Chit Shakti decides to reveal itself to through Maya Shakti or to the Jiva Shakti, the infinite can do that.
Very nice. That's brilliant. That sums it all up. That's perfect. See, it's just logical, right? It's just logical. How can we, the finite, approach, connect with the infinite? It can only be, the other way around. Not that we approach that, but that approaches us. So that's the whole key. That's kind of like the premise of our whole practicing life. How can we attract that higher being? We can't impress. It's not that we have something that's going to impress that higher being, right? if such a supreme entity exists, it will be infinitely superior to us in every way. So it's not that we're going to be able to impress that being with something that we have. No. So therefore, what does it come down to? Mercy, grace. How? So we're trying to attract. We're on the mercy boat. How can we attract mercy? How can we attract grace? It's all, the transaction will be one of affection, love, mercy, grace, right? So then the whole culture of Sharanagati, surrender, comes in, right? In every practice, at every moment, we're trying to keep that. When we're chanting, not that I'm chanting these beads, but I'm praying to be chanted. I'm praying that the name will be attracted to descend and reveal itself to me. When we're looking at the deity, not that, oh, I can see the deity, I'm looking at the deity, how cute the deity is and whatever, but we want to be seen, right? We have to switch it all around, switch it around. In many ways, everything is the opposite. The mundane mentality and the spiritual mentality approach, it's just the opposite. Well, I don't know if anyone else wants to, we still have, we're just halfway through. Does anyone else have any comments or questions, topics they'd like to bring up in our meeting today? What about you, Kirtida? I feel like you have something to say.
Dandavat Vishakha, I'm stunned over your explanation. We are Tatastha Shakti. Can we here choose the material or spiritual way while we're here? Maybe choose to free will, Tatastha, spiritual, material. Can we choose to go to the material side or choose to go to the spiritual side while we're here?
Well, we hear that the vast majority of souls, they do choose to go to that spiritual side. I mean, I've heard Gurudev one time say something like 99.9%, something like that. And it's it's kind of like in any society, a very small percentage of the population will be in prison. So something like that. Like the vast majority of souls, they're healthy, they're normal, and they've naturally chosen to go to that higher plane because that is more attractive naturally for us. But there must, because when there's free will involved, there must be some percentage who choose the other side. We're actually a very tiny percentage of that whole. I don't know if I'm addressing what you brought up.
When we first are here and now, can we now choose to go? I don't want to go to the spiritual side. I it's difficult for me to explain in English.
Can you explain rasa in Norwegian? Or I don't know.
What? What did you say?
Well, tell me again. You're saying now that we're here, can we choose to not go to the spiritual side?
Yes, and like this ground, this earth is a ground where we can choose to go either on material side or the spiritual side when we first are here now.
I mean, we do have that choice now, but at the same time, we are entangled with a particular set of karma right now.
But if we choose free will, we choose to not want to go to the material anymore. We are finished.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we could say we're all kind of leaning in that direction right now. We were kind of feeling like, actually, I think that was a bad choice. I think I'm going to choose the other side. But the problem is we already signed some contracts. And, like we signed a 1,000-year, 20,000-year contract or something, you say. No, not exactly like that, but we've signed up for a lot of things, and we've incurred a lot of karmic debt, and we have obligations, and also we can say yes on the one hand, yes, I want to go to Krishna's side, but it's not that 100% of our consciousness is fully there. So therefore there's a process of purification. So that's true, right? You could say we've signed up for the rehabilitation program, right? Mm-hmm. We want to be normal citizens, but it's going to be a process. We want to be healthy, non-crazy people. We want to be contributing members of society, but it's going to be a process. It's not going to be a snap of the fingers, right? So
I understand.
Right. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I understand what you say.
Okay. Well, you understand what I'm saying, but does it actually answer your question? No.
Yes, it did. I heard a lecture today about this team, and they explained that we are Tatastha Shakti, and by choosing either spiritual or material side, we can transform our lives here and now by I can't find the words, but you gave a good explanation, Vishaka Dasi. Okay. May I have another question, a short one? To be the observer, is it the same as being a witness or aware of?
I would say more or less that they could be used synonymously, and I think I might want to hear the context.
Yeah, aware of your material defects. Aware of your observer of your actions.
Right. Yeah, I would say observers. I mean, it's just semantics, right? It's not so important, but I would say observer is probably more of an accurate word in English.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
many use witness, and many use awareness. So I'm a little bit confused over the words.
I mean, they're all correct. They're all correct. It's yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice point that you bring up, that that is a big first step, right, of our rehabilitation. Because we may not be able to, we may be a little helpless and unable to, manage ourselves as we'd like to, but at least we can be aware, and recognize that. That's actually huge, right? So that's the idea. The word is not so important. The main thing is the idea and the application, right?
I have a question, Vishaka, and
Yes.
it's sort of in alignment with the question Aditi was asking. So as we feel like we connect more with a higher power, God, and we want to begin to respond in this realm in a more spiritual sense with a more spiritual intent. Is there sort of like a question or a feeling that we can become aware of within ourselves so that we can learn to respond with a more spiritual intent than more so our ego?
So you're saying, is there a way in which we can monitor ourselves, or, or how can we respond? Is there a question we can ask? That's what you said to.
Yeah, or like just like, yeah, a question we can ask ourselves or something we can, maybe feel in the body or a thought or something that would come up where we can be more aware of how we respond to something outside of us, like where it's more of in a spiritual sense or like comes from spirit and not more so the ego.
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing is that we go on with hearing, Shravan and Kirtan, right? Hearing and chanting. Because as we hear, our understanding of the different. So here's I'll put it in the chat. I want you to write this down in your notebook. Sambandha Gyan. Where's the hyphen? Sambandha Gyan. It's a funny word. It's pronounced Gyan. Not the autocorrect is not helping me right now. Okay. So Gyan, that word Gyan is pronounced like that. Sambandha Gyan. Gyan means knowledge. And Sambandha means something like yeah, that's nice, Marie. That was my first thought. Like, what is my intention? Who am I doing this for? Yeah, those are all helpful questions. But yeah, so this Sambandha Gyan, so Gyan means knowledge. Sambandha means something like, it means something like relationship.
Yeah.
Or connection. So Sambandha Gyan means having a proper knowledge, understanding of how everything is related. Sambandha Gyan means knowing what is what. Like what's the real setup? What's the real lowdown? Okay, let's say it like that. What's the real lowdown on everything? That's Sambandha Gyan. Like, who am I? I'm a CEO of a tech startup company based in Austin, Texas, and I was born into a corporate family in New York City or whatever. Just saying, whatever right now. Like, you could say, oh, that's my identity, or I'm a ballerina and I'm very beautiful and I travel all over the world and blah blah. These are all, that is not real Sambandha Gyan. That's just a temporary identity. Are you going to be a ballet dancer when you're 90 years old? Maybe, but not likely. Are you going to be a ballet dancer when you've dropped dead? No. No. Are you going to be young? What, are you always going to be young and beautiful? Are you always going to be a popular singer or whatever? You could get Alzheimer's tomorrow. How are you going to run your tech startup then? Right? These are all temporary. That's not Sambandha Gyan. Or, I'm buying 1,000 acres of land and I'm gonna, control the whole area. Oh, that's a temporary truth. right? I have $1 billion to my name, or I have $20 to my name. Those are both temporary truths. That doesn't reflect the true self, right? So what is Sambandha Gyan? That means understanding what is the true nature of things. That is Sambandha Gyan. Understanding what is the true nature of things within the context of eternity. That's a good one. Understanding the true nature of things within the context of eternity. That is not within the context of the next 50 years, right? It's like now our planet is facing a crisis, right? And there are so many, environmental agencies, they talk about sustainability and all these things, and that's all wonderful, but that's still a temporary solution. They're thinking longer term than the fossil fuel companies and whatever, but it's all just temporary solution. They're thinking a little bit further along the line. Oh, if, like now I'm in Portugal now, we went across to Spain, and there are these, lithium. Is it a gas, lithium?
No, it's a metal.
It's a metal.
Rare metal.
So lithium, right? It's a rare metal that's used in batteries and stuff. And apparently there are some mines around here. And so some companies are wanting to do mining, and there's a lot of money that they can get from it. But all the locals, we went across the border to Spain, and like all the shops and houses, everyone had these signs up.
Oh,
yeah, about no mining, right? And no.
No a la mina.
No a la mina, yeah, no mining. Why? Because they know, okay, you guys are going to make a big buck, you're going to make a lot of money, but then meanwhile, our reservoirs are going to be polluted, right? It's hazardous, this stuff. So they're thinking further along the line, right? So, but then we got to go further along the line, like zoom out more. What about not within, okay, you guys are thinking in the next 5 years you can make a lot of money. We're thinking 50 years, 100 years from now. Okay, what about 1,000,000 years from now? Right? Like what's going to be relevant then? So having that type of knowledge, eternal knowledge, that is called Sambandha Gyan. So what does that mean in a nutshell? What is that knowledge in a nutshell? That I am an eternal loving servant. I'm a lover of God. And who is that God? That God takes many forms and shapes. So what is the sweetest, most loving, most original? That is Krishna. So I want to love and I want to serve that original, charming, lovable Lord, Krishna. I want to find my connection, my relationship with Krishna and that eternal world, which is not suffering the reactions to exploitation like this world is, right? So all of my choices, how are they taking me closer to that eternal identity, right? So we can think of it in one way, and this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, primarily in a purport of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but that we can conceive we have two dharmas, right? If we use the word dharma here in the sense of duty, right? Our spiritual duty, we have two dharmas. Or let's just say in the sense of duty, we have our human duty, right? That we're mothers, fathers, sisters, whatever it may be. We need to put clothes on our body. We need to have food to eat. We have particular mundane desires, which we can't get free of right away, right? The baby's crying. We got to feed the baby. That's the way I see it. Sometimes our senses are like these crying babies, and you got to just give them a little food, right? So we have our human needs, our human desires, and our human duties. We got to take care of that. But we also can't lose sight of the bigger picture. That I'm Atma, I'm soul. And what am I doing for that cause, right? And my Atma has a relationship with the higher Atma, with the Paramatma. What am I doing to feed that relationship? What am I doing to support my higher self and to support my relationship with that divine source? So we want to, and I mean, one thing that's very helpful, our Gurudev spoke about, was doing a type of self-analysis. When we wake up in the morning, when we go to bed, we can do a kind of you're good at mathematics. You had a job at, what was the bank she had a job at?
Goldman Sachs.
She had a job. She was recruited by Goldman Sachs. So she's good with numbers. So our Gurudev, he used this Arabic word, saltamami. And it's like an accounting term where they do like an annual review of their debit and credit, right? So our Gurudev said we can do that, like at the end of each day, we can do a review. You know, how much did we do for our spiritual benefit? And how much did we do for our mundane benefit? We can do some checks and balances, right? Can do like a measuring scale, like which one's higher, you know, which one's heavier, which one got more attention, right? Do some, and the thing is, like, it's not that there's one magic question or one magic formula, but it's like a whole process. And this is why hearing, Shravan, and good association, sadhu sangha, is so important, because that's helping us to zoom out and be reminded and have that informed consciousness, right? Like when we're meeting day-to-day situations, we can let's square that up with our eternal need, right?
Yeah.
And our consciousness, you know, will naturally be checking in with that higher version of reality. It'll be natural. Who's the gainer of this? My higher self or my lower self? You could say it like that. Who's going to gain here? And sometimes we have to support the lower self, but we have that perspective. That's not the end game. That's not the destination, right? That's just like a, you know, I lost this battle, but I didn't lose the war type of thing, right?
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you.
Oh, nice question. And I saw that Dana had her hand raised. That was exciting. Dana, quiet.
Hi, hi, Paul. This whole discussion reminds me, there was a counselor I used to work with, and she used to tell me to make, like, on a piece of paper, like a circle, and in that circle, write down how I would like to feel. And then anytime I have a decision to make or anything like that, look in that circle and say, is this decision getting me closer or further away from that inner circle? And it just reminded me of that, of like, especially the intention part of like keeping the decisions, like, is this getting me further or closer away from Krishna or my spiritual path or my goals? I don't know. That's just what this whole discussion reminded me of, and I thought I'd share that.
Very nice, Dana. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. And Ramananda Prabhu also wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to find out actually. I was listening Guru Maharaj lecture. He says progress means elimination and new acceptance. So we have to constantly make adjustment, eliminate, and then accept a new higher ground. Yeah. Could you say something about that?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't say. How can I say better than that? That's wonderful.
No, I listened to Guru Maharaj. He's just amazing. He's like shooting like a rocket. Yeah. So sweet.
Like
Yeah. 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 He puts things in perspective right away. Yeah. I was listening actually this morning about Guru Maharaj talking to Sagar Maharaj, and they're discussing it, Srila Jiva Goswami. And amazing conversation. Yeah. Both of them.
Wow. Where's that
Yeah.
recording? Is that on the Mott website?
And I have on my tape. It should be on.
I don't think I've heard that talk before. Them having a conversation about Jiva Goswami. I haven't heard that. And maybe when I see you in California, you can share that.
Sure. Yeah,
But
Sagar Maharaj asking and Guru Maharaj explaining, and very nicely. Yeah, many points. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I've heard that. I'd love to get a copy. Yeah. But that's a very relevant quote that Ramananda Prabhu shared. Progress, this is another one for your notebook, Ati Sindhi. Progress means elimination and new acceptance. To really go forward, we have to let something else go. And that may be something internally, it may be something externally, right? It may be some habit or tendency or mental pattern within ourselves, maybe some person, some relationship, or some circumstance, right? But it's natural. In order to move forward, we have to let something else go. Just like when you're going upstairs, right? You're going up and you're moving away from the lower steps. It's a natural thing. So, well, yes. And that analogy is also given, right, of trying to row a boat, but you're anchored down. So you've got to release from that anchor if you really want to move forward. So everything that's holding you back, in your progress, you have to be able to let that go. And sometimes we may be a little stuck, but at least we can have that awareness that we're stuck. And we're praying for that grace that will come and help us to overcome, right? Sometimes we're waiting for Krishna's mercy, like the chatak bird, which is always waiting for the fresh rainwater, never taking any water from the mud, from the ground, but always waiting for the fresh rainwater that comes from above. Mm-hmm. Well, really nice, lively group today. Really appreciate everyone's input. I'm gonna end more or less some time because I do have limited internet here. I'm trying to save it for all the Zoom meetings. But any last comments from anyone? Anything from Chinmoy Prabhu? Always very happy to hear from you.
Just very glad that you're back, and then we can have again this association. It's very important for our spiritual life.
Jai Chinmoy Prabhu. Honored always to have your association. All right, then I think I'll end there unless anyone else wants to throw in any last words. And Marie has some insightful comments in the chat, as always. Oh, wow, and look at Axel. Axel's joining in here. We must burn our ship. Srila Govinda Marsh. Wow, Axel, feeling the fire. Yeah, Srila Govinda Maharaj would sometimes mention this. It's a strategy in naval warfare sometimes that the army, they're landing to conquer some territory. And then so they don't become cowardly and they can't turn back, they burn their ship. So they have no choice but to go forward.
When Cortez went to Mexico, that's the first thing he did.
What did you say?
When Cortez went to Mexico.
Wait, who's Cortez?
He went and conquered Mexico.
Oh, that was what he did.
First thing he burnt the ship.
Oh, he was a Spanish.
Yeah, he was a conquistador.
Oh.
First thing he did, burn the ships, and then everyone knows, oh, we're here to stay.
Oh, all the soldiers knew there's no turning back. Oh, okay. So unfortunately, in the material world, there's usually some exploitation involved in that strategy. Oh, look, there's Stephanie. Wow, how exciting.
Look what I bring in here.
Great to see you, Stephanie.
It's unmuted, by the way. Oh, likewise. Good to see you too.
Stephanie joined our pilgrimage in India last year. So it's a helpful strategy if we think of a progressive spiritual life, right? Cut off our old habits, or
going back.
Oh, no going back, exactly. Onward march, forwards, onwards and upwards, right? No other way to go. It's a very bold approach. Of course, not everyone may be ready for that. Like, we have to be sure if we're going to take a big leap, we got to be sure we've got some strong foundation. But the principle is there, right? And we worship that principle. Okay, well, thank you all so much for your wonderful participation, your association, for engaging me. And look forward to next time. We're going to have our Wednesday meeting and Thursday meeting this week also. So we'll look forward to seeing some of you there. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers Ki Jai. Thank you, Ati Sanji, for hosting, and look forward to next time. Haribo.
Jai Vishaka Devi Dasi ki jai.
Yeah.
Jai
Thank you.
Chinmoy.
Welcome back. Thank you. Dandos everyone.